Under the quiet glow of the studio lights, Wang stood in front of the microphone, his face calm yet heavy with a silence that carried years of emotion. The cameras had just stopped rolling, the cast had left for the day, and only the faint hum of equipment filled the space. But what happened next would send shockwaves across the entire entertainment industry. For years, people had speculated about Dylan and Shen Yue, about what really went on between them after Meteor Garden, about the unspoken moments, the subtle glances, the laughter that always seemed too real to be scripted. Tonight, Dylan was about to say something no one expected him to ever admit. He took a deep breath and said quietly, almost trembling, "I never stopped thinking about her." The few crew members left in the room froze. The director, unsure if this was part of an unscripted take, looked up in confusion. Dylan's voice cracked slightly as he continued, "It was never just acting for me. Every scene, every look, every word, it was real." Somewhere far away, Shen Yue sat in her apartment scrolling through social media. Her phone was blowing up with notifications, messages from fans, reporters, and old friends. The clip was already spreading like wildfire. Dylan Wang's raw confession, captured during a behind-the-scenes segment, had leaked. Within minutes, her name was trending again across every major platform. She stared at the screen in disbelief, her heart racing as she replayed his words again and again. The video continued, showing Dylan lowering his head as if the weight of everything he'd held in for years had finally become too much. "People always told me to move on," he said softly, "but how do you move on from something that never truly ended?" His voice was steady but filled with pain, the kind that comes only from years of silence and pretending. The entire internet went still. Fans began digging up old interviews, behind-the-scenes clips, photos, and moments they had once dismissed as acting. There was one scene that resurfaced, one where Shen Yue had tears in her eyes even before the director called action. Now, people wondered if those tears were real. Some fans claimed that Dylan's gaze in that moment had always been different, softer, more genuine than any performance could ever be. As the night deepened, Shen Yue sat in the dark, thinking back to those long days on set. The memories came rushing in like a tide she could no longer hold back. The laughter between takes, the long conversations about dreams, the shared silence after a scene that felt too real. There had always been something unspoken, something that hovered just between them, too delicate to name, too strong to ignore. She remembered one night after filming had ended late. They had sat by the river near the studio, talking about life, fame, and how strange it felt to have millions watching them fall in love on screen while hiding what they truly felt off-screen. Dylan had told her then, "If one day all of this ends, I hope people still remember the real us." At the time, she had smiled and brushed it off, not realizing that those words would someday echo back to her like a haunting melody. As the confession spread across platforms, reporters camped outside both of their apartments. Old co-stars began posting cryptic reactions online. One simply wrote, "We all saw it coming." Another posted a behind-the-scenes photo of the two of them laughing together, captioned, "Some stories never fade." Dylan, meanwhile, had turned off his phone. He didn't expect this to happen. He didn't mean for the clip to be released. But deep down, maybe a part of him wanted the truth to finally breathe. His management called frantically, his PR team tried to contain the chaos, but he refused to issue a statement. For the first time, he didn't want to control the narrative. He wanted the world to know how real it was. Hours later, Shen Yue finally posted something on her private account, not a public statement, but a short caption on an old photo of the two of them smiling in the rain. The caption read simply, "I remember." That single phrase sent the internet into a frenzy. Fans from all over the world began posting their own theories. Was it a confirmation, a goodbye, or the beginning of something new? By the next morning, major news outlets had picked up the story. The headlines called it "The Confession That Stopped Time." Entertainment reporters tried to reach out for interviews, but neither Dylan nor Shen Yue responded. What the public didn't know was that Shen Yue had already left her apartment that morning. She was on her way to see him. When she arrived, Dylan was sitting outside the same old cafe they used to visit during filming. He looked up, startled, as she approached. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she smiled, just slightly, and said, "You always did talk too much when you're nervous." He laughed softly, his eyes glistening, and said, "I thought I'd lost the right to talk to you at all." They sat together for hours, away from the cameras, away from the chaos. There were tears, laughter, and long silences filled with understanding. She told him she had never stopped caring, but she had been afraid. He told her he had spent years hiding behind fame, pretending not to miss her. As the evening sun painted the city in gold, Dylan reached across the table and said, "Maybe it's time we stop pretending." Shen Yue didn't reply immediately. She simply reached for his hand, and in that quiet moment, the noise of the world disappeared. Later that night, someone from the cafe staff posted a photo online, taken from afar, showing the two of them sitting side by side, smiling like they used to. The caption read, "Some endings are just new beginnings in disguise." That image went viral within minutes. Fans called it the moment that healed years of silence. It wasn't about scandal anymore, or about fame. It was about two people who had once lost each other and finally found the courage to be honest. The next morning, Dylan finally posted a single message to his fans. It said, "I didn't say it for the cameras. I said it because it was true." And in response, Shen Yue shared his post with 3 simple words, "I heard you." From that moment, the world no longer saw them as just co-stars. They were something more, something real, something timeless. Their story became a reminder that no matter how far apart life may pull people, truth always finds its way back to the surface. Their confession wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. It was raw, human, and unforgettable. And for millions watching around the world, it was the proof that some love stories never really end. They simply pause until the world is ready to believe again. The night after Dylan's emotional interview aired, the internet refused to sleep. Fans across the world were awake, glued to their screens, replaying the moment over and over again, analyzing every word, every pause, every glance in his eyes. For years, rumors had circulated about his hidden connection with Shen Yue, but no one had expected Dylan to actually speak about it. His voice, calm yet trembling, carried something raw and real, something that broke through the usual celebrity polish. Meanwhile, Shen Yue had not said a single word publicly. Her silence only made everything more intense. But behind that silence was a storm she had been trying to control for years. On the night of Dylan's confession, she had been on set filming a quiet, emotional scene. Yet as soon as the director called cut, her assistant ran in, phone shaking in her hand, whispering, "He talked about you." Shen Yue froze. For a few seconds, she didn't breathe. She took the phone, pressed play, and listened to his words, her eyes never blinking, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to hold the phone steady. When Dylan said her name on screen, her eyes softened. And when he paused before the final line, the one where he admitted that some feelings never really fade no matter how much time passes, something in her broke. She turned away from everyone, quietly asking for a break from filming. She walked out of the set into the quiet night, the city lights flickering in the distance. Her team followed at a distance, watching her shoulders move slowly, her hand brushing away tears she didn't want anyone to see. The next day, social media was flooded with comparisons of their old interviews, their photos from Meteor Garden, and fan theories about what had really happened between them. Some said Dylan's confession was a publicity move. Others swore it was genuine. But what made people talk the most wasn't just his words, it was the way he said them. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't performed. It was real. 2 nights later, a new development shook everyone again. A behind-the-scenes clip surfaced online showing Dylan and Shen Yue together in a rehearsal room just months before the confession. The clip, taken by someone on the production team, showed them talking quietly between scenes. In it, Dylan reached out and handed her something small, a silver bracelet. Her expression had been soft, uncertain, but she took it. Then the video cut off abruptly. No one knew what was said after that, but the silence in that short moment spoke volumes. Fans flooded Shen Yue's social media with thousands of messages. Some begged her to respond. Others told her to let go of the past. But one particular comment caught everyone's attention. It read, "He finally said it, but will you ever answer?" 3 days passed before Shen Yue finally broke her silence. She posted a single message, just a few lines, but it was enough to send the internet into chaos. Some things are never said at the right time, but maybe silence doesn't mean I didn't feel it too. The post went viral within minutes. It was shared on every platform, dissected by fans and reporters alike. Every word was turned into a theory, every pause became a clue. But to those who had followed them from the start, it was clear, she wasn't denying anything. She was finally acknowledging what everyone had long suspected. Dylan didn't respond publicly. But during a press conference 2 days later, a reporter asked him if he had seen Shen Yue's post. He smiled faintly, his eyes down for a moment before he said, "Yes, and that's enough for me." That line was all it took. The room fell silent, the reporters frozen, unsure how to continue. The weeks that followed were filled with emotional reactions. Fans began re-editing their old scenes together, creating compilations titled, "They Were Always Meant to Be." Others wrote open letters about how their story had reminded them that timing in love is sometimes cruel but always unforgettable. But behind the noise, Dylan and Shen Yue had found quiet ways to reconnect. Industry insiders claimed the two had been spotted at a small cafe in Hangzhou, sitting across from each other, talking for hours. No photos were taken, no cameras caught the moment, but those who were there said they looked like two people who had finally found the courage to speak the words they had once left unsaid. That quiet reunion changed everything. After years of distance, they began communicating again, not as actors tied by a show, but as two souls who had grown separately and still found their way back to understanding each other. Months later, news broke that Dylan and Shen Yue had been cast in the same film once more, a romantic drama that revolved around two people separated by fate but reunited by time. When the trailer was released, one line stood out, spoken by Dylan in a soft, almost nostalgic tone. "Some love stories never end. They just wait for the right moment to be told." The internet exploded again, fans calling it the real-life confession turned into art. Shen Yue's character, strong yet vulnerable, mirrored her own life in subtle ways, while Dylan's performance carried an emotional depth that felt painfully authentic. When the film finally premiered, the atmosphere in the cinema was electric. As the credits rolled, many in the audience had tears in their eyes. For fans, it wasn't just a movie, it was closure, a full circle, a story that had started years ago and was finally finding its end. In the final scene of the movie, Dylan's character turned to Shen Yue's and said quietly, "Maybe we were never meant to be perfect. But we were meant to be real." And for everyone watching, that line didn't just belong to the characters, it belonged to Dylan and Shen Yue themselves. As they walked off stage together during the premiere, hand in hand for the first time in years, the cameras flashed, the crowd cheered, and for once, both of them smiled without hiding anything. It was no longer just a story the fans had created. It was their truth. Finally spoken, finally seen, finally real.